Folks, a very good evening to you and welcome to In the Ring. We are so grateful to have you guys this evening. We are locked and loaded, ready to fight. Good to see all of you joining us. Wherever you're picking us up from this evening, we are getting ready to start at our end. It's Wednesday, folks. Tomorrow it's Thursday. It's another day to be productive. And we have quite a few things to discuss this evening. Tomorrow is the sitting of Parliament, for those of you who may not know. And tonight joining us, we're going to have quite a few persons. We're going to have the Mayor of Linden, Her Worship, the Mayor of New Amsterdam, Her Worship, and we're going to have Amanza, Walton-Disir. So again, we're going to have Her Worship, the Mayor of Linden, Mrs. Waneka Arrindell, and we're going to have Her Worship, the Mayor of New Amsterdam, Mrs. Winifred Heywood. And we're going to have them just in a little bit, just as we get a little bit of our own housekeeping out of the way, folks. You guys know by now how we like to do things here. So stay with us. As we come on, we're going to hold for you guys to share the live stream as we always do. We invite you guys to share our live stream, and then we get the ball rolling. We may have to dispense with some of the usual features of our regular programming. We may. We're going to wait to see what happens in just a minute or two, but I'm putting you on notice for that. Good. I'm going to share a bit of information with you, and I'm still holding. I'm having some challenges at my end, if you must know, but I'm hoping against hope. My fingers are crossed and my toes are crossed that we can do what we want to do this evening. I'm getting some technological challenges, and we just might have to do the program upside down. We just might. We just might. Quite a few folks are going to be with us in just a couple minutes. In just a couple minutes, folks. So as you come on, we invite you guys to share the live stream wherever you are. Those of you who are joining us on Twitter, you're going to retweet for us. You're going to give us your comment. We're going to show them as per normal. Retweet. Those of you who are joining us on YouTube, you're going to love. You're going to use whatever emoji you want to use there. Subscribe. And those of you guys who are going to be joining us via Facebook, we invite you to share the stream back to your profiles, back to your pages as we start this evening's program. And I'm still trying to iron out a few kinks at my end, looking to see where things go. Folks, welcome again. Welcome in the ring. It's always a privilege to have you after your day at work, your day at home. Some of you guys still on the job, and you guys know by now how much we value your presence, how much we value your time. So welcome to each and every one of you. Again, we're holding because we're looking for our magic number. And as soon as we are there, we're going to get started, folks. We're ready at our end. We are ready at our end. And while I wait on you guys, let me follow suit and also share while you guys are sharing. So I am practicing, in effect, what I preach. I'm going to just share it a couple of places and be right back with each and every one of you guys. Thanks for joining us. Wherever you're joining us from this evening, thanks for joining us. We are delighted. We are privileged to have you guys. Quite a couple of things we are going to share, and we see hundreds of you are logging on as per normal. As per normal. We really love your company. So retweet, reshare, folks, and then we're going to have a go at it. Retweet, reshare. I'm waiting for us to hit that magic number, and then as per normal, we get on the go. Good to see you guys. Good to see you out there. Guys, you're looking so lovely tonight, looking so beautiful. Great to see each and every one of you. And I'm going to wait another minute or two. Our folks are standing by, and we want to bring them out properly. So we're going to wait till we hit that magic number, and then we're going to have them with us. Waiting on you guys. We invite you guys, as per normal. You guys know what the routine is: to share, to retweet, to subscribe, wherever you guys are picking us up from. Again, we have the Mayor of New Amsterdam with us. We have the Mayor of Linden with us this evening. And we're so happy that they can join us. So let's bring them on without any further delay. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite this evening, as promised, the Mayor of New Amsterdam and the Mayor of the mining town, the municipality of Linden, Mayor Arrindell and Mayor Heywood. A very good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, and thank you for having us.
Madam Mayor from Linden, we have a counterpart who is joining us internationally. I'm not going to call names, but while one person working, somebody is getting some rest, and we're privileged and delighted to have both of you with us this evening. What is happening in the municipality? Let's start with Linden. We know that you, like Ms. Heywood, Ms. Arrindell, are a hard worker, always working in the interest of our Guyanese people. What's happening on the ground in Linden?
Well, I do try my best. As I always say, this is a higher form of service. So far in Linden, we are progressing well. I think we're just in the first month of the year, and we're trying our best to make sure we can serve the people of our town. We do, however, have some major issues at the council that continue to plague us, and that has to do with, we talked about, I think yesterday, about rates and taxes, but we also have the issue of the CIIP program that has not started back as yet, and I know that at least 250 persons are out there waiting to see what will happen and how they'll be able to move forward in this time.
Mayor Heywood, what's happening in your neck of the woods? You may have to turn your mic on for us. Apologies there. I think your mic is still muted. You may have to turn it on for us.
Okay. Good evening, yes, everyone. And it is an honor and a privilege to meet with you guys here. After being here for a few weeks, I am grateful. Some of the challenges that we have in New Amsterdam is first the CIP workers, the SIP workers. The SIP workers, we were told not to allow them to work as of the second week of January. And those workers are people who really assist us in all areas of the town. They were told not to work, and as we are where we are, we do not know when these people will resume work. We need these people to work. And why we need these people? Because we have promised our people in the town that we will serve without fear or favor. And if these people are supposed to work with us and they have been pulled off, we would not be able to pay these people. We also have a greater challenge with us, and that challenge is with the local government commission.
Well, I was coming there. Go right ahead, though.
We need people to work, and it would take a very long time. The process is so long for us to have workers, and it is really stymieing the work of the town of New Amsterdam. I am grateful that we can come and we can talk, and I trust that as we speak, we will be able to have our people to work, our people that is the SIP workers, and also the workers that we need to do our work, especially in the health department and the constab department. Right now, New Amsterdam is in a chaos because of what is happening in our town.
Mayor Arrindell, on those same points, we have learned that there is an intention not to rehire a great majority of those SIP workers And in addition to that, there are lots of complaints coming out of not only the local government commission, but the Ministry of Local Government. What has been your challenges on the ground where you are?
Well, the information you're giving is new to me. What has been happening and what's in the air is that there is some sort of switch that they intend to move the CIIP project from under the council and place it onto the RDC. I think it's important for us to understand something. If we continue to mix leadership and overstep boundaries of where we are and what we should do, we'll get conflicts. The CIIP project's main focus is the maintenance of parkets, cleaning of drains, cleaning of places like the cemetery, open spaces, green spaces, community center grounds. All those aspects of their program is directly linked to local governance and not regional governance. They're in the town and their activities is specific to municipal activities. And I do believe that was the reason for the development of the project. If there is a need to move, for whatever reason that need would be, I do believe that conversations between the government and the municipality has to be forthcoming. We cannot continue to make decisions higher up the chain without consultations on the ground. If we continue to do that, we'll fail as a people. Therefore, it's suggested that we talk about this, that we share where we are and what we intend to do. Also, I would advise, because that might be where I stand, I would advise that we do not fire our people who are already in an area of pandemic or already facing other difficulties. This is a job that is needed, and not only just for employment, but for the beautification of our town. There is no way, based on the rates and taxes we collect, that we're able to sustain this project on our own. So we would suggest to this government that they leave where it is and as quickly as possible, start that project again.
Great. Mayor Arrindell, you raise an issue there that I want to raise with Mayor Heywood, that of communication. We saw quite recently, for instance, in 𝗪𝗵cie, they were going to cut down some iconic, what they call the rubber trees. And then you had the local government ministry stepping in at quite the ninth hour. This is the second time in 2 years that this issue has come to the fore where they wanted to cut down this tree. Do you think, Mayor Heywood, that one of the challenges that we face by this new administration is what Mayor Arrindell says, this whole communication challenge?
Yes, I want to agree with her because at first, the minister, he came to our town. And when he came to our town, he promised a whole lot of people were there, and he promised that he was going to give us 47 million so that we can do our work. However, we only had received 5 million. For me, I don't mind that he would have promised this 47, but you just can't go high-handedly and just turn 47 to 5 million. It is wrong. We have no communication where the government is concerned. Sometimes, they would come into our town. They don't even communicate. And it is wrong. It is wrong because we cannot say anything to our people because sometimes people might come and ask, this minister is in the town, that minister, we don't even know. No communication at all. And it is so bad and wrong.
Thank you for that intervention. Finance-wise, I know, Mayor Arrindell, you spoke about the challenges with rates and taxes, the challenges to raise funds for the municipality. I know there used to be a subvention from the government. Where are you in terms of generating income for the kinds of projects that you want to see in the township? And I ask the same question to Mayor Heywood afterwards.
Just repeat the last part for me. Where are we in relation
in terms of generating income for the township?
Sherrod, I speak on behalf of all municipalities when I say we're in a dilemma as it relates to collection of rates and taxes. If a government is not willing to reevaluate the rates and tax that was done since 1976, and we are in 2021, it therefore means that the expenditure of a municipality has increased significantly, but the income has not increased. And everybody knows if you're into business and that happens, you're a failed business. We're failing our municipalities if we don't reevaluate. APNU AFC begun the process of reevaluation with an entity, and I don't know if that has been thrown out or if it's going to be continued. But I do know based on the news that our ministers said that they will not be reevaluated or they'll not be raising rates and taxes. That is not the best way to go. Every country, every city in the world developed because of rates. If we don't have rates, then we're making municipalities dependent on central government. When that happens, because they only give us $60 million a year, $60 million a year to patch roads, to put in street lightings, to dispose of garbage, to maintain cemeteries. There is no way it can happen. But if we're able to raise those rates and taxes, and I said it in yesterday's program, we're getting $1,800 a year from households and maybe $3,000 a year from businesses to provide all the services. And this is not just us, this is every municipality. This cannot happen. If this continues, then I think we're going back to the dark ages where central government will attempt to manage local governance, and it cannot be allowed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also want to support Mayor
Right ahead,
Arrindell
Heywood.
because
Apologies
I
there.
recognize maybe about 2 years ago, we had raised our rates and taxes. But even though we would have raised it, it's at 100%. And let us supposing that someone was paying $1,000 a year, the 100%, they had to pay $2,000 a year. But then in no the work that we have to do, somebody paying $2,000 a year, that is grossly inadequate for the council to function. Right now, we in such a terrible financial problem, we're not even able to pay wages in a timely manner. We are not in the town to clean the interlocks because of financial issues. And we are not even able to the government say this is the situation because they would not come and talk with
All right.
us. Is
Mayor
going
Heywood is
on
breaking up a little bit.
in the
Yeah.
town so that we can have assistance. I feel, and I'm saying this publicly, that when someone, a country, you are the leader for every single municipality and NDC. And I feel that they should come to us, see what are some of the challenges, and see how well they could help us. Because I would always say to people that we had said that we will serve without fear or favor. We wanted to serve, but we cannot serve without the financial assistance from the government. Another thing I would like to say, New Amsterdam municipality this year in September will be celebrating 130 years
Oh.
as a municipality. New Amsterdam is the oldest municipality, while
Excellent.
Georgetown
Excellent.
is a city. New Amsterdam is a municipality. And I feel that the time is opportune that the town of New Amsterdam subvention must be raised so that we can conduct our business in the town in a manner. That's how I feel personally as mayor of New Amsterdam.
Fantastic. Mayor Arrindell, you raised a very important issue earlier that I want to circle back to. the issue of leadership. And I know under the afternoon AFC government, first time having served as Deputy Mayor of Georgetown, that there were comprehensive programs done by the then Ministry of Communities, whether it was national conferences from mayor and councillors. You did talk on a recent program about foreign training that were involved for mayors. You even had a very, very engaging and integrative approach to the Guyana Association of Mayors. And I want to ask you, where is that latter effort currently? I think we've lost the mayor. She may be back with us. But Mayor Ben, Mayor Heywood, you were quite au fait with GAM as well, the Guyana Association of Mayors. Do you see that going forward? Do you see that kind of leadership being brought to bear in terms of the level of training the municipalities had under the last administration being obtained under the current administration?
Mayor Arrindell?
Go right ahead, Mayor Heywood. I think we have lost her.
Is the president of the, yes, she's the president of the organization. I am the present treasurer of the organization. The amount of things that we would have done under the APNU AFC government, where GAM, the Guyana Association of Municipalities, where that is concerned, unfortunately, we are not able to do anything as yet. We're still to go inward and see how best we can have them to start contributing, and not only contributing to meet our mayor so that we can do the things we used to do, because we would have done a training for our municipalities, even though some of them did not show up. We did the training, whether they liked it or they didn't like it. We prepared training, visited them, so that we can have this association going. Right now, it is not going the way that we want it to go.
Excellent, Mayor Heywood. Mayor Arrindell, the point that I raised there is that we saw a blossoming of local government under the afternoon AFC administration after a hiatus of over 20 years. We saw different projects and programs, especially, I think we may lose her again. We saw the resuscitation of the Guyana Association of Mayors that I know I benefited from firsthand. That was an association that was as dormant as local government under the People's Progressive Party Civic. And so, you know, it is really and truly heartening to see that association up and running, and one wonders where it's going to go under the People's Progressive Party Civic. Mayor Heywood, what are some of the programs that you might have for 2020 and onwards? I know because I visited New Amsterdam just today, and it's as beautiful as ever, and a historic town. They call it the Ancient County. What might be some of the programs that the people out there can look forward to see the township being involved in? Folks, we're having some communication setback this evening, and as we hold for the mayor to come in there, we encourage you to share the live stream. In the meantime, we encourage your comments, whether you're joining us on Twitter, whether you're joining us on YouTube. You know, we love having you guys. You know that this is not a usual feature of what happens here, but unfortunately, this is just one of those nights when we have all manner of things that are happening. But I am happy that you guys are here with us, and we are going to touch on a couple of things as we wait for our other guests to come this evening. So I am happy that you guys are here. We had to start our program a little bit different from the way we usually start, because we did have guests waiting, and we don't want our guests waiting very long. Whenever I'm operating in public office, I never like people waiting on me very, very long. I try to be very, very prompt. And apologies for the kinds of setbacks we're having this evening in particular. Are you guys good this evening? I trust so. I trust so. And we are pretty much prepared for everything. Pretty much prepared for everything that may be thrown at us. Pretty much prepared, folks. So I'm delighted to have you on this evening. Share the live stream. We are going to have the mayor back with us in just a minute. Have no fear. Mayor Arrindell, I was asking, and apologies for the bouncing on and off, about the success of GAM. I know you are the president of the Ghana Association of Mayors, and could we look forward to seeing more of GAM under this new dispensation?
I do apologize. I thought it was my internet. GT&T, the big better network. I wasn't sure. So the Ghana Association of Municipalities have been not as active as it should be, but under APNU, we have been able to hold mayors roundtables, and we've had training done within municipalities. So in this new year, we expect that we'll be able to do that. I think we're on a little shaky ground at this moment as we try to understand what is the new administration's interest in local governance and their continued support to the Ghana Association of Municipalities. We hope we do get that support, because for this year, we have planned again the Mayor's Roundtable. It's so important that mayors come together and have talks about what are their difficulties, what are their concerns, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and how they can move forward and how we can share together. So we're going to have that again, and we're going to continue the training and intervention. However, we're widening our scope. As a municipality, we're going to, as an association, we're going to be able to reach out to embassies and non-governmental organizations with both locally and internationally in order to bring training to municipalities, whether it be for our staff or whether it be for councillors. So this year we are focusing more on garnering support so we can have projects that would help to grow local governance within Guyana. So definitely a lot to see in this new year as we move forward.
Mayor Arrindell, it is always a privilege to have you. You are one of the special mayors to me. You are from my born town. And I love all the work that is being done there. You know, a couple of Sundays back, I visited a colleague in Linden. We had some tremendous stew pork, and Linden is just beautiful, and you know it. That river there, you have the Blue Lake.
In the entire country.
Yes, and there's now kayaking in Linden. There's so much that Linden has to offer. So folks, if you have a weekend and you want to do something, your tourist dollars are, I think, best spent in Linden and then New Amsterdam.
I must say,
having you.
I must say, because we're advertising Linden, the municipality has embarked on opening a children's park. So that should be up and ready, not 100%, but we're opening, and we have revitalized the bandstand. So if you want to host your one-man band and your senior citizen events, we have those social. Remember, we're not doing large gatherings, but that you have a chance to have an open air and to be able to follow the COVID-19 guidelines and find a place where you can relax. So Linden is a place to be.
Perfect, Madam Mayor. My final question in part in. There is that iconic sign as you turn off the highway into Linden proper. Welcome to Linden. What has happened to that sign? I know there was a beautiful photograph of you bidding folks welcome there.
It is now down, of course. We can't say why. The police is saying there was some heavy wind and it might have been down. So it is down for now. But definitely we're looking at see what we can do that is different. I don't want to believe that nobody loves my face, but I do believe that we can put something more specific to Linden. Sure. We can advertise Linden, and so I did have banks that sponsor that, but now we're looking at advertising the tourism of Linden. So when you enter and you see that sign, you wouldn't see just the mayor's face, but you'll see what Linden has to offer, and to show that Linden is open for business. So that will be back there soon.
Exactly. Beautiful sights, beautiful scenery, beautiful people. Mayor Arrindell, thanks for coming through this evening. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me. God bless.
Mayor Heywood, I know we've been having some challenges. What are your final thoughts for the evening before we?
Sounds.
Right ahead, Mayor Heywood. Great to have
Sorry to
you.
be off.
No, it's quite okay. What are your final thoughts for the evening?
My final thoughts? Well, my final thoughts is that I am happy that we can be on the air and all could understand some of the challenges that we as mayors and people of these respective towns, what we are going through. And I don't think that we should go through what we are going through because it is reminding me about the amount of years and how we would have suffered. I don't want us to go back there. And because I do not want us to go back there, I trust that the people in authority will come and talk with us, communicate with us, and let us move forward. Because when we were placed there a few years ago, is for us to turn our tongue to a higher level. And we cannot turn our tongue to a higher level if we don't have proper communication and let the persons who are responsible for us come see what we're doing so they can take it from there.
Very well. Ms. Arrindell, Mayor Winifred Heywood, thank you both, ladies, for joining us. Such powerhouses. And thanks for the great work you guys are doing in your respective municipalities, Linden and New Amsterdam. Thanks for joining this evening.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. God bless.
Thank you ever so much. May God continue to bless you with the work that you're doing. The blood of Jesus cover all of us.
Amen and amen. Thank you. Folks,
Yes.
there
Yeah,
you
you're
have it.
welcome.
There you have it, folks. The
Yes.
mayor of Linden and of New Amsterdam, up close and personal. And talking about up close, we have somebody who's very special to us joining us this evening. Let us welcome the one and only Amanza Walton-Disir, the Honorable Member of Parliament and the Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs. Amanda, it is so great to have you once more. We chatted earlier on this afternoon, and it's a privilege to have you at this end this evening. How are you doing?
Hi, Sharon. I'm well, thank you. I'm well, thank you. You see, I have my Vaseline and so on. I'm ready.
Let's fight, Amanza. Let's fight. No sucker punches and no hitting below the belt.
I got you. Let's go. Let's
I
go.
know you had a very important meeting this afternoon with the substantive Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Tell us a little bit about what happened there.
Well, Sharon, I thought it was necessary for us to have a meeting with the minister because of the conflicting narrative that is out there as it relates to the detention of our fisher folk in Venezuela. So I requested the meeting, and the minister kindly agreed to have that meeting. And we had a meeting today at 11 o'clock. So, of course, the minister was kind enough to give me an outline of the interventions that we have made in terms of getting our brothers and sisters. Our brother is home to their families. He indicated that we would have issued protest notes to a number of international organizations with a view to, of course, soliciting their support and, of course, putting pressure on Venezuela to release the fishermen. Um, and so he appears to be of the view that the fishermen were rightfully within the Guyana EEZ conducting their activities. And of course, that means that their detention by Venezuela is illegal and goes against the principles of international law. And so it is on that basis that, we are proceeding through diplomatic channels, because of course it has to be necessarily a diplomatic solution. We, of course, want to avoid conflict, etc., at all cost. And so it appears as though the government is moving to utilize the international channels to be able to bring some resolution to this matter. I think,
And
yes, go ahead.
I was going to interject there to ask that there has been lots of concern that we, as a country, and the representatives especially, needs to be a little more forceful on the front end, because we see for instance, the foreign affairs minister out of Venezuela seem to think that he could, say what he wants to say, and he seems to be a strong man in his own right. And some people thought that this protest note should have been flung away. I mean, they had the gall and the nerve to issue us with a protest note from fishing boats being in our own territorial waters.
And yes.
At which point do we take the gloves off?
Well, you see, look, this is, I think, where we have to be mindful that Guyana has submitted itself to the jurisdiction of the ICJ. And so necessarily, whatever moves are made should be with the understanding that you do not want to do anything that will jeopardize your case and your good standing before the ICJ. So in all of that, we still have to remember that we must perform that balancing act then. And so I think that might be, I'm not saying, but I'm supposing that could very well be, and I could understand, maybe moving cautiously so as not to be seen to disrespect that jurisdiction of the ICJ. Now, the other thing that we have to bear in mind is that Venezuela is acting in this manner to pressure us to submit to that good officer process. They want us to move from the ICJ and from the jurisdiction. We tried that. Of course, we tried that. And so this is why I think the 𝗵𝗵 administration, in its wisdom, thought it was important to bring this matter to finality once and for all, hence seeking a judicial settlement, as it were. We were to have the case management with the ICJ on the 25th. And based on the intervention of Venezuela, the court postponed that, I think, to February 26th. And so you have them fighting on both fronts, postponing the case management, but at the same time being aggressive. And so I think the government will need to ratchet up the pressure internationally. I think it is important that we hear from international organizations such as CARICOM, etc. I specifically inquired of the minister about the level of involvement of our personnel in Washington, D.C., because I do have some reservations about 𝗪𝗏, the lobbying group. I've seen press releases which suggest that they are making statements that they have been representing our interests to the powers that be in Washington, D.C. Now, of course, having a lobbying group speaking on your behalf in matters of sovereignty and territorial integrity is fraught with some hazards. And so it is not an approach that is advised. And so, I pointed this out to the minister and urged that we make greater use of our very competent, I believe, Foreign Service personnel that we have scattered, well, not scattered, but that we have stationed in these capitals. So definitely we have a lot of work to do in terms of putting our heads together and facing this threat internationally. I read somewhere on social media, I'm yet to confirm, that maybe another boat was taken. Did you hear that?
No, I'm not.
I'm not able to confirm it, but I read it somewhere on social media where a boat by the name of Miss Annie, I think it is, was taken. But as I've not been able to confirm that information, and so we have to keep abreast of these developments. And, you know, it is, go ahead, Cherith.
Amanza, if you have a country like Venezuela that has that have their own internal problems, politically and otherwise, you know, and they seem to be the bully. We hand left and we mother belly. I mean, like, what's happening? I mean, I don't know what to put it.
They also have an army, Cherith.
We have U.S. interest represented here in ExxonMobil.
Well, you know,
Tell us.
I'll tell you that this is the interesting part, I think, of international relations. How do you manage and balance competing and complementing interests, etc., and at what time? So it's a very interesting situation in which we find ourselves. I think, like I pointed out to the minister, it's very difficult to sell the notion of national pride right now to Guyanese, particularly because of the manner in which the PPP has been managing the affairs of the country since they were installed into government. And so, you know, it's going to be a dicey situation that will call on, I think, every ounce of our wherewithal in terms of foreign policy and so on. The government would be smart to seek to tap into the very formidable resources that the opposition has in that regard, in terms of human resource and personnel and so on, to be able to resolve this thing through diplomatic channels. But I anticipate that it will only ratchet up. I think Venezuela will continue with her aggression, and we will be pressured to find solutions to this issue.
Manzo, you spoke early on about this balancing force, this balancing act that we have to do as countries on the international stage. You spoke about pressure. We have had under the David Grange-led administration a non-interventionist policy. CARICOM has that same policy, but clearly it wasn't followed in the March 2nd general and regional elections. Should we be trying to tip the scale in intervention in Venezuela internal affairs now, since they are trying to steal our territory? I want to play for you what 𝗪𝗵cie said at the General Debate Forum of the United Nations, the 74th session, and to get your reaction at the end on intervention.
Despite our small sizes, the 14 countries of the Caribbean have been able to play roles of equal importance. I can't stand here today without talking about St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that has become the smallest nation of the world ever to be elected to the Security Council of this country. We are proud of them. I want to speak to this, because when CARICOM was confronted with the unfolding situation in Venezuela, I accompanied the then chairman of CARICOM, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, to meet in this building with the UN Secretary General in January of this year. And we met with many delegations, and some said we were wasting our time, and some said the time for talk was already over. And we said then, as we say almost 9 months later, the time for dialogue, the time for talk, my friends, can never be over in a world that wants peace and prosperity. We don't take sides, but what we know is that you cannot propel war over dialogue. The people of Venezuela must be allowed to decide their own future in accordance with the principles of the United Nations Charter, principles of non-intervention. non-interference, prohibition of the threat or use of force, respect for the rule of law, human rights, and democracy.
It was the 27th day of September 2019. Reactions? Your mic may be off, Amanza. Apologies.
Yes, no, I'm saying I'm smiling listening to that because it's a typical example of interest when it suits you, you know? So Guyana has benefited tremendously from a non-interventionist stance. We do not meddle in the internal affairs of sovereign states. And I think that the PPP broke with that tradition. And this is exactly why we are where we are now, facing this aggression. I mean, if we want to be blunt about it, this is exactly why we are where we are now, with this heightened and ramped up level of aggression that we're seeing from Venezuela. And so it is distressing for me to hear the flip-flopping in that speech, because when Guyana had its issues, no call to dialogue was made, and said, you know, President Green just told to take your licks like a man. So I think the existence of recordings on social media and so on and so forth really will turn out to be the bane of some people's existence, because their hypocrisy will be on display for all to see.
You did talk early on about the Ali administration, as fraudulent as they are, wanting cooperation on certain issues, like the Venezuela issue, wanting unity with the opposition on the Venezuela issue, yet out of the same mouth, you see them talking about us being mischievous, of them not putting us in the state board because we view them as an illegal government, them not inviting us to budget talks, pre-budget talks. How do you parse that? How do you make sense of that? And how do we move forward? Mansi, your mic is off again, sadly.
Sorry, no, I'm saying you can't make sense of it. It's not possible to make sense of it. The only thing that is making sense is that the APNU-AFC has the good sense and decency to understand that it is important that we hold a particular unified front on this matter, and that we understand that it is important to get those 12 men home to their families. So this is relying solely on the decency of the APNU-AFC to support, to support this, because I think we are a decent, caring people. Otherwise, the PPP does not care. They don't care. And so with one hand, you want to say, yes, we need to be unified. But then at the next hand, you take every action possible to ensure that we are alienated from decision making, etc. So it's hard to figure out the PPP. I think that they believe that, of course, our cooperation in this regard is a ship that they can ride, but they are sadly mistaken. We are taking the principled view that on matters of our territorial integrity and our sovereignty, cooperation and a bipartisan approach is necessary. We are not saying that this is the only place that it is necessary, but it appears to be that this is the only place that the PPP welcomes it. And that approach too will I think turn around to bite them. The world is losing its appetite for this type of leadership, for the type of autocracy that you're seeing emerging. And I think that the PPP they'll serve themselves well and Guyana better if they change course and move towards a more inclusionary system of decision making.
Excellent. just off of the topic, but we're going to end the program on me asking you, what is your advice, what is your encouragement to Guyanese in this critical period of our nation's history? But usually we start our program with hot topics, and as I knew you were coming on, and I knew you like to deal with hot topics, I saved that segment to get your responses to some of the issues. And so in no particular order, I want to get your reaction to some of the issues that are local, but are in the headlines. We saw this issue quite recently, Amanza, with these historic trees in 𝗪𝗵𝗴. They call them the rubber trees. I think they are a very iconic landmark in 𝗪𝗵𝗴. The town council there took the decision to cut them recently, to cut them down because they said they were obstructing traffic and a whole host of other things. The Ministry of Local Government stepped in just this afternoon to halt that process. There seems to be a disconnect between the Ministry of Local Government all of a sudden and municipalities, RDCs, and NDCs. Thoughts?
My thoughts on the matter are that I noted that the Honorable Minister Dharmlal had a statement which suggested that this agreement to cut down the trees was done under our previous administration, the APNUFC administration. Of course, there is evidence in the press that the Ministry of Public Infrastructure had advised that the trees not be cut down and that it was possible to develop the road, to deviate and to preserve these, very important pieces of our heritage. And so, it doesn't surprise me that everything bad they seem to want to cast at the foot of the APNUFC, but they do not have the decency to admit, the full facts and truth. I am glad that I learned that some of the trees have been cut, but I'm very glad that the remainder of the trees have been saved. As for the disconnect, it's not acceptable. I think it is important that we maybe have the heritage, the National Trust, and so on, name these places as heritage sites and these areas as heritage sites, so that there is some greater protection in terms of felling these trees and so on. Just the way we have named the 𝗪𝗏 protected area, that certain trees that are, centuries old should be protected. I saw where I don't know who he is, a fella there, he might be the regional chair, I'm not even sure, who says he was in support of the cutting of the tree because they obstruct traffic and they could fall down. But if these are heritage sites, there are ways that you can preserve and shore up these trees if they are posing a danger. But it just shows that there's no regard for heritage and so on and so forth anymore. You mow down 100-year-old trees to build a road when you could divert the road. So I think it speaks to a greater problem of depth and ability to reason and perceive, that seems to be pervading Guyana now.
Excellent. Moving on, the hiring of hundreds of Guyanese with the advent of the 𝗵𝗵C administration. Just today, Amanza, there were health workers across Linden protesting their treatment by the People's Progressive Party administration, the horrific treatment, them wanting, just to be treated fairly as Guyanese. Your thoughts?
I think the supporters of the PPP will do well to encourage their leaders to understand that these people are the backbone of the healthcare system. And the truth and the facts are that should the public healthcare system collapse, the greater number of the PPP supporters will not have the ability to access proper healthcare. And so while it may seem that they're going on this power trip in the short term, in the long term, it is they who are going to suffer.
And your advice for those folks in Linden?
Stand up for your rights. You have a right to be paid properly for your work. Now you have the St. John's Nurses Brigade that has been there for years. Without explanation, they are all fired. People have to understand that outside of the leadership, people in Guyana have to determine that they're going to begin to stand up for their rights. So it does not take the APNU AFC agitating and going out there with a poster and picketing. That should be in addition to citizens being able to engage in their constitutional right to assemble and to express the fact that they are aggrieved. And that is a power that lies with the citizen that we have to respect. And I encourage anybody who feels aggrieved to take the necessary measures to stand up for your right.
Excellent. Just this afternoon, we saw at Arrindell lots of persons gathering there. It seems to me hundreds of persons, because there was some outreach by the Ministry of Central Housing and Planning, led by Colin Crowell and the Honorable Miss Rodriguez. This is a government that doesn't seem to care one bit about COVID. People continue to gather in large numbers. They ignore their own COVID regulations. Your thoughts?
Well, the government uses COVID regulations and guidelines conveniently. And so if people protest in an attempt to safeguard their constitutional rights, COVID, you're violating the guidelines. But they can embark on these pseudo campaign outings and outreaches in order to be able to appear to be doing something. Now, when you get down to the bottom of it, you know, they're claiming to have allocated so many house lots, but you ask any person where the house lot is located, and they can't tell you, they can't point to a spot. Because the fact is that when the APNUFC was handing out house lots, the PPP was at the top of their lungs shouting that you are giving people house lots in areas that are not developed, that there's no infrastructure. And they're doing the exact thing. A lot of those places that house lots have been allocated are cane fields without any kind of demarcation. They haven't even been surveyed yet. You see? But of course, they thrive on the fact that there's a large section of the Guyanese population that does not do research for themselves, that thrives on propaganda, and who are not interested in constructive conversation.
And how activities do we strike the balance with the services that we need and your health concerns? Or what should be your health concerns?
There are ways to do it, Sherrod. There are ways to do it. Just like how you could pass guidelines for dining facilities to operate in a particular manner, the government, I am sure, can implement rules and regulations to ensure that if they are going to have these meetings, that COVID rules are enforced. You know, the police is not only to oppress Black people in Guyana, they can help to maintain order and so on and so forth if they're going to have these meetings and ensure that, you know, the social distancing guidelines are met. So it's just the hypocrisy. And, you know, for the rabid supporters who refuse to see reason, it's going to look like, oh, they're doing stuff, but there are right-thinking Guyanese who recognize it for what it is, and who are seeing the PPP for who they really are. All that the PPP is doing is demonstrating to Guyanese that they are unfit to run this country. That is all they are doing. When you strip away all of the fluff and all of the pomp and all of the distractions, and their supporters who like to get on to your programs and talk nonsense, the only thing that they're doing is demonstrating just how disconnected they are from the tone of what is going on internationally, and how they how just unfit they are to run the country. You see, what has happened, Sherrod, is that for the first time in 28 years, in 30 years, Guyanese have had the opportunity of contrast. You've seen 23 years of the PPP rule, and you've seen 5 years of the APNU AFC, and people are able to mark the distinct contrast between those two eras. Immediately, you've returned to a climate of fear. The police have become unprofessional. You see, just a breakdown of law and order immediately. The largest cocaine busts and these things. And so that opportunity to provide a contrast is important, because people will now be able to make better decisions going forward.
Amanza, my final hot topic for the evening. Last week, the Minister of Education was asked to comment on the state of education amid COVID. As you know, the government has been struggling for a policy that really and truly is effective in the pandemic, and they have been really struggling on this front. And amid the worst pandemic of a generation, the minister had some encouraging words for teachers. I want you to take a listen and give me your reactions at the end.
Sometime in 2016, or the teachers who parents have not seen or heard from since March of last year, or the teachers who are teaching one single day per week for 1 hour and then disappear for the rest of the week. We've heard about some of those teachers, and they're really ashamed of the profession, their disgrace, and they've heard of the lazy teachers. Who's the lazy teachers? Who said they had a cold sometime in 2016?
Amanza.
Online. Or the
Sharon, what can I say to these things?
Go ahead before us.
It's interesting that, listen, I come from a family of teachers, right? My mother was a head teacher. My mother taught for 40-something years. My aunts were all teachers. I have cousins who are teachers. And I understand the immense sacrifice it takes to impart. I understand it is something that's done out of love. Now, I think we need to adapt a more sensitive approach. The world over, we are grappling with a pandemic. The world over, teachers are complaining that delivering education in a virtual setting is far more difficult than it is person to person, for a number of reasons. Parents are finding it a little more difficult. And so I think it is very callous that the Minister of Education would make such a statement. We need to extend a little more grace to our teachers and to our students, because we are all grappling with a very new situation, and we need each other to be able to make it through. The minister would be smart to maybe reach across the aisle to have recommendations, etc., from the opposition in terms of what can be done for the nation's children. Because if you can't collaborate on a matter as crucial as the education of the nation's children, then what can you collaborate on? And I'm wondering what is it hope that those comments would achieve? Because to my mind, it achieves nothing than to alienate teachers.
Yeah, and Manza, it is on that note that I ask you to pull like 2 inches right as we say a good evening to all except 𝗪𝗵cie. Because Priya, if we remember, has had other sojourns in ministries. And prior, she was Minister of Education, and we didn't see anything that could say that she served any time well in that ministry. And it was Priya, as we started on international affairs, who went to the ambassador house, American ambassador's residence, and delivered, in the words of Roger Luncheon, a feral blast. And so it's on that final note, we say a good night to all, except Priya 𝗪𝗪cie. Amanza, we're at a critical point in our nation's history. You have the COVID pandemic on one hand, Venezuela on the other hand, and you have the PPP on all hands. What are your thoughts to Guyanese this evening as we close? I like how you took that deep breath.
Because it's a troubling question, Sherrod. And at the end of the day, I keep making the point that it is Guyanese who must believe that we deserve a better Guyana. And not at the risk of sounding like a broken record, but we have to step away from politics that says that I feel comfortable if the man or woman in State House looks like me. It is a backward paradigm, and it is time that we part with it. It is time that we understand and demand better leadership for our country. Because the truth be told, the PPP is not interested in delivering a good life to Guyanese. They are interested in enriching a few friends. And the fact is that the PPP supporters, they're not necessarily benefiting in any tangible form. But there's a lot of pride and there's a lot of, the obstinate in terms of defending wrong and so on and so forth, because we are yet to be liberated to the point that says, I have a right to a certain life. Guyana is a rich country. It is a resource-rich country, and we deserve better. But as long as politicians can use race to keep us divided, they will always be able to control. And I say that mindful of the fact that I'm now categorized as a politician. but we have to put away this whole issue of the world has no appetite, and the people we have to understand the world has no appetite for anybody trying to do ethnic cleansing and so on in a population right now. And so they're tone deaf, and because they are tone deaf, they will self-destruct. The world over, you are seeing a move to inclusionary democracy, you're seeing a move to inclusionary governance. But it appears as though that it is not resident within the PPP to be magnanimous and to decide that we have to change course. If not for our own survival, we have to change course. But of course, there's a large section of the population that they can continue to hoodwink. There's a large section of the population who will continue to have their mouth, engaged without the benefit of their intellect. And so they will always appear to be able to get by. But I am hopeful, Sharon, that there's a generation of young people who are saying, look, we want more, we deserve more, and we're not going to be satisfied with this partisan politics anymore. It is either you deliver good governance or we vote you out. I look forward to that day, and I think it is soon coming.
Amanza, on that note, I want to thank you for spending this time with me this evening, talking about some of the international issues of the day and even staying for the hot topics this evening. We look forward to having you back again.
I like this hot topics format, Sharon. This is a good. I like this hot topics format. Keep it up.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for the very important work that you do, Sharon. You bring constructive discussion. You bring constructive discourse for people who are interested in engaging their minds and attention towards, healthy discourse and so forth and so on. So kudos to you, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Amanza. And I know the hardest punch is the velvet glove punch. Thank you for that last note there. Great having you with us, Amanza.
All right,
folks,
great.
That's the program this evening. And as you know, as we go, we always like to encourage you guys to observe all of the COVID-19 protocols that are in place for your health and your safety and that of your loved ones. Social distance, wear your mask, sanitize. Again, you should not be in crowds larger than 10, folks. It is for your health and for your safety and that of your loved ones, your friends and your families. It isn't worth it. So rethink going to the supermarket ever so often. Rethink lining up in all of those long lines, standing so close to people, whether it's at the ATM or it's at the Ministry of Housing activity, or it is to meet Priya Manikchan sharing out some uniform grant when is school opening. And for her comments about teachers this evening, them being lazy and a whole pack of nonsense, she's earned herself no good night. So good night to all of you guys, except we thank you for having the testicular fortitude and the intellectual aptitude for being ringside and for our guests for being in the ring. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow night. Stay safe.